Hello and welcome to Gigsy Creator Central. I'm your host Arvindh, and as usual, I have Vikram Parthan, CEO of Gigsy India, and today we have a special guest, Mr. Tony J. Das. Please say hi.
Hey everyone. Hi, hi. Nice to
Hi,
meet you all.
Tony.
So today's
Hey,
episode is
Vikram.
Thank you. Today's episode is slightly different than the usual ones. Today, what we're going to be doing, and I'm hoping it's going to be even more fun than our usual episodes. We're going to be talking to Tony. Tony J. Das is an accomplished musician, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. But today, we're going to be talking not just about what my experience or what Vikram's experience is. We're going to be hearing from somebody who's been there, who's done that, and we want to bring it straight to you. So, Tony, without much ado, please introduce yourself and tell us about all of your awesomeness.
All of my awesomeness that would get over in no sentences. Hi everyone. My name is Tony, and I play guitar primarily. Uh, I've been doing this and other music-related things for uh, professionally for wow, it's 15 years
15
now, and
years.
yeah,
You don't look that old.
yeah. Thank you. Uh,
Just for the record,
I'm
I'm in marketing, so I get to say stuff like this and get away with it. So back to you, Tony.
Yeah, I know. So along the way, I've made a lot of valuable friends and learning, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted, apart from sharing music with everyone, which is the thing I love the most. I also wanted to try and be able to share a lot of the things that I've picked up along the way with people
Mm-hmm.
concerning music, mostly concerning music,
Mm-hmm.
but also concerning the music industry or business or profession or regarding people who want to do this as a full time thing.
Okay.
What else you got to do?
So tell me something. How did you get started in music? And I'm going to request you to be a little bit louder, so that
Oh,
yeah, it would
sure.
really
Maybe
help.
I will put in my second. Does that help? If
Yes,
I
it does. It does.
okay. I
And
I'll leave it out.
a PSA announcement for everybody who's watching. So this is one of the best examples of how pretty much all creative people are, right? So we try experiments. Sometimes it fails, but when we receive feedback, we kind of just build on that and try to become better and better. And of course, it really helps when you have other people trying to give you feedback. And that's kind of the community that we're trying to build at Gixie. And after that shameless plug, back to you. Thank you.
um, okay, so how did I get started? I I used to, when I was the story goes back a long way.
Hmm.
So when I was very young, my I grew up in Dubai,
Hmm.
or rather, maybe not completely, for the first almost 14 years of my life I was
Hmm.
in the UAE. And when we were kids, my brother and my sister, one of my sisters, and I, we used to have pretty cool radio back then, playing all the top 40 chart stuff from around the world.
Hmm.
And so we got into listening to that kind of music at a very young age. And so we'd sing along and we'd learn stuff and we really enjoyed music. And our parents, while they were not really connected to music in a personal professional sort of way, they
Hmm.
really enjoyed music as well. So we got encouraged to sing as much as we could and stuff. So that was the thing when I was very young. I used to sing a lot more. My brother and sister and myself,
Hmm.
one of my sisters. Um, and then much later in life, I started to play the guitar a little bit. Just play some chords to kind of accompany what we were doing when we were singing and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And it was a very, it was a very fun thing when it happened, but it was almost secondary in a sense because we used to sing a lot more.
Hmm.
And then after a while, just before I turned 14, I moved to Bangalore, to India, and then that continued for a while. I used to play a little bit, and I was of the opinion that that magically after 20 years of just playing these chords and things like that, that I would be able to play like Slash or Joe Satriani or something. Um, those are the people I was listening to at the time. But that was far from true, which I quickly discovered shortly after. I went to, I think it was probably my first full-fledged like rock concert, which was Strawberry Fields at National Law School. It
Mm-hmm.
was one of the biggest in India. So I went there and I saw all these guys from. I was in college. I was about almost 18,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw all these guys who were, at most a couple of years older than I was. They were on stage and they were playing stuff like Metallica songs, and they were playing Megadeth and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and a bunch of original music and stuff like that. And I was standing there feeling so demoralized. I was like, wow, I thought I knew how to play the guitar.
Uh-huh.
And so I went back home, and very soon after that, as soon as I could, I went out and I bought a Joe Satriani cassette.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, for those of you that don't know, Joe Satriani is a very popular instrumental guitar player, and an extreme cassette. Extreme, the guys who do more than words. They do a lot of other music apart from that. So when I went out and bought these two cassettes, and then I proceeded to start um, sitting down and listening to the music and trying to learn music. And at that point, I actually had an electric guitar because my brother, who came over from Dubai shortly after I did, a little over a year after I did, he had an electric guitar at the time, and so he brought that with him. And so I kind of had one before I knew what to do with it. And so I sat down with these cassettes, and firstly I listened to the whole thing. I was blown away by all the music, all this kind of new music, and I started to proceed to try and figure out what exactly was going on in music, and I listened to things, and I try and replicate them on the guitar, and it took me so far. And then at that time, it was the days of dial-up internet and internet cafes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I used to, there was no YouTube and stuff. So I used to go down to these places, and I used to download text files of like guitar notation and stuff like that to learn scales and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. So that was my introduction to scales. And then I started to connect what was happening in the scales with what I was learning from these two cassettes that I just bought. And so that's how it started, and this was back in '99. So it's been like 21 years since I've been doing that now. So
21 years.
yeah, it sounds like a lot now, and it's a lot actually.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that was that show at Strawberry Fields at National Law School was really what gave me the push to say, I'm not doing enough. What do I have to do to be able to do that and more?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge turning point for me, and that is how I got into like wanting to know what I was doing on the guitar. And
Mm-hmm.
a couple years after that, I finished college, and I was thinking about going and studying music, and
Mm-hmm.
I was extremely broke at the time, so that had to be put on hold. So I took up a job. I was working in Accenture for a couple of years, and I was still broke by the end of it. So music college is really expensive. I was
Okay.
at that time there was nothing here, so I was looking at the US. When actually, much later I found out I could have been looking at something like the UK or Europe because they're much more affordable and uh, much more within reach of most
Mm-hmm.
people. A lot of great kids.
Right.
But yeah, so I still couldn't afford that after 2 years working. So so then I thought and so sorry, I made this decision to leave work because I thought, okay, now it's time for me to, after 2 years working, I thought it's time for me to go and do this music thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that couldn't happen right then. So I thought, okay, so I might as well kind of get into doing something professionally kind of tide me over until I'm able to go and explore all these
Right.
other avenues. So I was playing with my band Bhumi at the time, which is like a heavy metal band,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't a full time thing because everyone was working and it was something that we do when we had the time. Uh, so at that point, Terminal and a Quarter was also looking for uh, an additional guitar player, and my best friend Willie, he was in a band from Chennai called Moksha, and they were looking for a bass player, and so these two things kind of came up at the same time, and so
Mm-hmm.
I kind of took both of them on, and yeah, I think that's how my life as a professional musician kind of started. Apart
Okay.
from also doing stuff like studio work and recordings and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. Yeah, so that's how I got into it, like professionally speaking.
Okay. All right, that's quite an interesting story. You were there somewhere abroad. You came down. You went to this concert. You had like, oh my god, I want to be doing something like this. And you're like, okay, I'm going to try. And then you kept on doing at it. And you decided to pursue it much more in detail in terms of formal education. But then you're like,
Yeah.
dude, that stuff is expensive. So then you move on, and then you just keep on doing this, and then opportunities come. One thing leads to another, and here we are today.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I
pretty
mean,
much.
it talks about persistence, right? It talks about the fact that if you're passionate about something and you just go all out for it, things will happen.
Yeah.
Whether, all you need to do is to put in the hard work. And if you just look at Tony's CV, he's extremely modest and he's one of the sweetest people I know. But if you just look at
Hey.
Tony's CV, there is Bhumi, there is Thermal and a Quarter, there is Sandeep Chauta, there is Raghu Dikshit Project, there is Moksha, I mean, that people tree, I mean, the list is endless. It's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
and to be honest, every time I see him, either one of the things that people identify with Tony is obviously the fact that he's a super awesome guitarist. But outside of that, he's got the voice of an angel when he sings, right? And
Hey.
uh, he, I mean, uh, one of my favorite singers for the longest time has been Chris Cornell. And when I
Oh.
listen to Tony
You
sing,
have good taste.
I'm not trying to make some stupid ass comparisons here, but when I listen to Tony sing, that's probably the closest I get to being reminded about
Oh,
Chris Cornell. So it
oh
just
no.
brings in so many memories. I mean, he's just a total package as a musician. That is what I would like.
Yeah. He's put up a whole bunch of videos as well. So plus, there are some of his own creations. He's done a lot of covers as well. So I think you can get a
Yeah,
taste of
I'm
what
a
he's talking
fanboy.
about.
I'm a fanboy. I'm ready to take it.
Thanks, Vikram.
Are you? Yeah, yeah, let's just
That
do
was
this.
a
All right.
heart shape.
Tony, one thing that did stand out in the story that you were saying is
Mm-hmm.
this has not been a straight road, and nor has it been exactly a smooth or an easy one. Obviously, you have faced hardships. Can you just talk a little bit about that, especially for young musicians, right, who are looking at getting started? You've been in the industry, you've been doing this for 20 years or so. Now, for somebody who wants to just get started with music, and maybe they're going to their version of Strawberry Fields at NLS, right? What would you tell them?
Wow, it's hard. It's hard to say exactly now because, especially with recent developments in the world,
Mm-hmm.
everything has become very uncertain. Everything has changed like drastically. So it's a it's kind of making you reassess things every day,
Mm-hmm.
and not being presented with all the information all the time. Your reassessment also keeps changing every day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but present conditions aside, because we still have to
Of
see what
course.
it looks like over the long term. Um, I'd say so. It also everything has changed so much. Apart from the whole Corona thing, everything has changed so much since uh, my time, as the old timers say. Um,
Back in my day.
yeah, back when I was just 25 years old. like there's a wealth of information nowadays, and it's so much easier to learn stuff.
Hmm.
Is one thing that was like a huge uh, like stumbling block around my time. Around my time, I said it again. Um, there were like a couple of guys who had you know instructional DVDs and stuff like that. You circulate them and try and learn stuff, and and that was it. Um, we didn't have people here who could teach um, more advanced forms of music. Not that might be not necessarily true. When it comes to the Hindustani and Carnatic traditions, you have the best people that you can ever hope to find here.
Hmm.
But I'm saying in like say the Western tradition or even things like modern production and things like that. Um, or rather, we had a couple of people,
Hmm.
um, amazing teachers and players, but they weren't always here and available. And at that time, it was much harder to get a hold of someone.
Mm.
There weren't cell phones, and if people wouldn't check their email for the longest time. So that was a barrier. So one of the big early barriers was um, where do you get the information from? And in my case, what I did was to get text files and kind of learn from there. But even that information was hard to come by. Whereas nowadays you have guys on YouTube, like showing you
Mhm.
everything,
Right.
showing you how to do everything, and that has its own challenges as well because there's so much information. There's so much, and it's so easy to get overcome by the amount of information that is available.
True.
Uh, so yeah, but again, back to the challenges that I faced. One was, how do you get this information? And there were other smaller challenges like gear. Stuff
Hmm.
wasn't as easily
Right.
available then, and if it was really expensive and really hard to get. You'd have to wait for somebody coming back from somewhere to bring you like a little distortion pedal or something. I mean, we still do that nowadays because customs is quite prohibitive. But but yeah, there's a lot more great stuff available
Tony,
available.
I have two questions on this. All right.
Mhm.
One is back in your day, just building on what you were saying. Uh, Information was very, very hard to come by. And nowadays, and I
Mhm.
think this is going to be true for music as well, because there are so many people teaching so many different ways of doing the same thing, right? And
Yes,
now I'm not a musician, but I'm pretty sure that there are like maybe 15,000 different videos that teach you the basics of a guitar, right?
yes.
In that situation, how does somebody who's learning actually go about and handle and process all of these things? Like, because I have teacher A, I have teacher B, and teacher C, each one of them is teaching me different things. How would I process that?
That is that's the hard part, and that's why a lot of people that you see doing these things nowadays
Hmm.
online, apart from apart from maybe guys who are teaching like very basic sorts of lessons,
Hmm.
but most people will recommend that you find some kind of an interactive teaching session. Find a teacher either locally or do on one-on-one classes on Skype or something with somebody because as much as all the stuff is available here and it's great, there's nothing that can equal the value of a one-on-one interaction with
Mm.
somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody who can give you immediate feedback on what it is that you're doing good, what it is that you need to fix. All of those things are really quite invaluable.
Mhm.
In a difficult situation, it's if you can't find somebody like that, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. You can go ahead and do your thing. And in fact, a lot of it is like a personal psychology thing. A lot of people do much better without teachers. You know,
Okay.
and historically there have been people who have been completely self-taught who have gone on to find and create new ways of doing things just by virtue of that.
Hmm.
Um, Again, there's a whole debate that rages on, teacher versus no teacher,
Nature versus
individuality,
nurture. Yeah.
yeah, individuality versus learning the same stuff everybody else learns. And
Hmm.
it gets a little, those arguments get a little silly.
Okay.
Um, but there's nothing like an interaction with with somebody, a
Of
real
course.
time interaction.
All
Yeah.
right. Another thing that you had mentioned, this is the second question I had for you, was that I think you mentioned that we live in uncertain times, like the times that we live right now. And for that, we definitely need to adapt. One of the cool things that you've done is, of course, get started with Gigsy, right? You're there as a musician on the platform. That's really cool. But could you just talk a little bit about your thought process before you joined Gigsy as to why did you actually think about getting onto a platform like this, and how do you believe that this is going to be helping you?
Um, so I have been over the last few years. I've been putting out like videos, guitar playing and some singing and all sorts of things. And going a little bit back to what Vikram said earlier, it kind of started on a semi-regular basis after Chris Cornell passed away, because I was a huge fan, unashamedly big fanboy. And so I just started covering his songs and putting them up in in some sort of a tribute sort of way. I don't want to say it was that, but it was my way of dealing with it or something.
Of course.
Um, so then I started doing other stuff uh, that by other bands and things like that. And I started enjoying the whole process of uh, putting together the tracks and playing, overdubbing a couple of different types of guitar and playing bass and programming the drums and doing all the vocal layers and trying
Hmm.
to mix them so that they sound okay. I started enjoying that, and more than anything, I started learning so much about singing
Hmm.
because of that. Because I've always, for most of my life, I've always sung backing in whatever band I have. So that way, I knew how to produce a sound with my throat.
Hmm.
But there's so much more to being the main voice in a song that you really, uh, recording yourself and listening back to it is really invaluable. You hear what you can fix. You hear what you have fixed uh,
Hmm.
in the past, from the past, what you were doing wrong, and all those things. It's a great learning experience. And so over the last couple of years that I've been doing it, I feel like I've learned a lot,
Okay.
and it's been a lot of fun. And I've gotten there are a lot of people who are interested in the same kind of music that I've been putting out, which is cool because I always thought that that kind of stuff was on its way out. But there are a lot of people, a lot of them might be my age, but some young people also who uh, who enjoy the music, and it's always nice to see a new version of something old. Uh,
Hmm.
so I wanted to kind of channelize that, which is a little hard to do on all the bigger platforms, YouTube and Facebook, etc., etc. To find it's hard to find the people that want to see exactly what it is, just the people that want to see what it is that you do and engage those people instead of trying to throw your stuff out to everyone and say, hey,
Right.
do you like this? And if you do, will you watch it? Instead of that, you have a bunch of people who know what you're going to do, and they're there to
Your
kind of
tribe.
engage.
That's what it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool. So I think we're almost done with this entire interview. But I was hoping that you could
Oh,
talk a
cool.
little bit about how your experience has been on Gixie. The past 2 weeks that we've been interacting, and even before. If you could just talk a little bit about that, I think it would really help future creators, understand what they are getting into. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I've known Vikram and Vikram, as they are technically known, for for many years.
Motherfucker.
Signed on then, but it was kind of a busy time, and getting I wasn't too focused. Then this whole thing happened, and the lockdown happened, and I thought it was a great time to actually start doing stuff because once you start and you establish some kind of momentum, then you can maintain that momentum. So then I spoke to one of the Vikrams, and this Vikram, the Vikram who's with us right now. And we kind of got to talking, and I said uh, that I wanted to start doing this now, so it's some downtime, and it's a good time to get started, etc., etc. And he was like, "Yeah, cool." And so then, within a couple of minutes, I did the I filled out the what do you call it, the profile thingy, who I was and what I wanted to do, etc. It was really easy, very quick, and uh, and so technically, yeah. So I was on then, and then the last couple of conversations that you and I have had,
Mhm.
which has been over the last couple of weeks, had conversations and interactions by way of mail, etc. They've taught me a lot of stuff. I need to say thanks. They've taught me a lot of stuff about what this whole what the creator space is like today, and what people are looking forward to, and what you can look forward to, and the things you can do to engage people. And
Mhm.
it's been really, more than anything else, it's been really educational. And I think that our sessions that have happened so far, and ones that I may request to have in the future, I think they'll really help me figure out exactly how to go about this. It'll help me figure out how I want to go about it, more
Mhm.
importantly, and how I want to keep people interested and keep them
Right.
engaged
Right.
while I'm doing it.
Right. Cool. Thank you for that, Tony. And for those of you who are watching this video in the future, at Gigsy, we do have a bunch of stuff, especially as a part of Gigsy Creator Central, where a whole bunch of stuff that's going to help you figure out how you can turn whatever you're interested in, your passion, into profit. Now, I've had the good fortune, and I'm just going to be calling it what it is, good karma of actually meeting Tony and getting to understand what he's where he's coming from, what he's going with, and how we can actually go about turning that passion into profit. uh, this kind of like brings us to the end of this official interview sort of a thing, and we're going to be doing a whole bunch of different things, different interviews as well. I'm pretty sure that I want to be bringing Tony back more for a one-on-one where we have a little bit more real estate, and I actually want to see him like play the guitar as well. Yeah. So maybe, and you know what, guys, if you're going to be looking to do that, just go to gigsy.in/Tony J Das. That's where you can find him. And of course, he's quite prolific on the interwebs. So Tony J Das on the internet anywhere, you can actually go find him over there. Tony, thank you so much for actually doing this with us, man. I realized that you have like a whole bunch of stuff going on, but you taking the time out to do this. I think that's super epic. So thank you for that.
Hey, no, thank you. Thank
And
you for having me.
yeah, anytime. And for Vikram, I'm just hoping that nobody else saw what I saw, and it's going to be. I'm pretty sure Tony saw it too, but in case he didn't, I'm
No,
going
I
to.
don't think he did.
I
I
didn't.
don't think he did.
I didn't see anything because I only had you on the screen all the whole time.
Awesome. That's really good. But for those of you, if you guys have noticed what this blooper is, leave a comment, and let's have some speculation, some masala as to see what this is happening. But until then, please make sure that you check out Gigsy.in. Make sure that you check out the Creator Central. We have a whole bunch of things, including a 30-day plan that you can use to start turning your passion into profit. For now, it's Arvindh saying over and out.
Thank you so much, Tony. Wishing you all the
Thanks,
success.
Vikram. Live long and
Bye.
prosper. I'll see you soon.